Hello, friends. Welcome in. Wow, that is nice and bright and crisp in my headphones. Hope it's bright and crisp in your speakers or wherever you might be listening. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and this conveniently is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on this Wednesday, November 20 edition. Thank you for being around. Thank you for being here. As always, we are presented to you by US Pest. Love the gang over at US Pest, and I'll be talking more about those guys presently in just a moment or two or a minute or two or an hour or two or thereabouts. As I said, it's 8 minutes past noon. Hope the afternoon's going well. Hope the morning was going well. I love it. I absolutely adore it. I like the cool weather. I like the fact that we're pulling out the coats and the ponchos and all of those things because it ought to be cool weather considering that it's November 20th. We expect, I believe that I saw that it's not getting, for a lot of us, it's not. Let's just go ahead and go to the forecast. I will not lean on Ken Weaver just yet on this. Oh, getting up to 62 according to my handy-dandy weather forecast machine here in my hand. 62 degrees today, 56 currently. In Nashville, Tennessee, where I am on the butt end of Music Row, and not getting up. But today, 62 degrees, a balmy 62. Tomorrow, only up to 47 degrees, 47 the high for tomorrow, and 49 the high for Friday. So
it's a dry heat, though.
And I'm expected to. What do you think the possibilities of me making my tea time at 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning would be?
Well, since it's golf, I would say reasonably good, but there's always that chance that you just roll over and go, it's just melting off and go back to sleep.
Well, I don't know. This is a pretty spot. Apparently, this is a swanky course down in College Grove that all of the music industry stars are playing on. So you never know.
You got to be careful with this colder weather, Brother Murphy, because your tire light might be on Friday morning. Mm-hmm. And when those lights come on, you got to get them right into the shop and get them checked.
I had that happen the other day, actually.
Your tire light on?
Yeah, my pressure sensor went off because when we had the cold snap, the tires contracted and released a little air.
Who's responsible for this? Which one of you?
You.
Which one of you is responsible for it?
You. This is your show, man. It's called the Matt Murphy Show.
You know, I'm not going to blame Ken Weaver when I have a chance to blame Bell K.
Of course not. Why would you?
Because
I appreciate the attention.
Excuse me, Bell. Hey, Ken, how are you?
What's going on there, boys? How you doing?
I'm not doing too well, Ken. Would you like to know why?
Why is that, Brother Murphy?
All right, so fine. I'm going to tell the story. I don't know how any of you became aware of this story, but I'm going to tell the story.
Okay. What happened, man?
So I had new tires and rims put on my truck. It's something I've wanted to do since I got the truck.
Yes, sir.
And I did some research, and I selected a location in Hendersonville. And I'm not going to name the location because I think these are good people. I would like to believe that they believe in a better level of customer service than perhaps I feel like I have received thus far, but they will go unnamed at least today.
Okay.
Depending on what happens tonight, maybe I'm naming names tomorrow. So I go in and I leave the truck overnight and I drive away and I come back to pick it up 2 afternoons later. And I keep the old tires and rims. Because the tires still have some tread on them, and why take the tires off if you're going to keep the rims? And they don't really give you any trade-in on factory rims, and so I kept the factory rims.
Okay.
And they're in the back of the truck. And the guy said, your tire sensor monitor might be trying to read the tires that are in the back of your truck. So once you get them out of your truck, if your tire sensor doesn't reset, you'll have to swing by, and we can reset it for you, and off you go. Okay. All right, I understand.
Fair enough.
Makes sense. Fair enough. So, sure enough, I get the tires out of the truck, and I stack them up into the garage, and I drive off, and the sensor light goes on the truck, and it's got a big box that comes up on the screen saying, tire sensor, needs checking or whatever it says.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, I guess we're going to have to do this. And so I make my way all the way. Now, I live out in Mount Juliet, everyone. And there's no good way to get from Mount Juliet to Hendersonville. There just isn't. You either have to go through, y'all know this. You have to either go through Nashville up to Briley Parkway, or you have to go all the way to 65. Or, and believe it or not, this is the best option. You go away from Nashville, get to 109, go up 109, hit 386 at Vietnam Veterans Parkway.
Do any of these routes that you have in your head involve 24?
They do not.
Then Ken's probably not interested.
Yeah, Ken just checked out. Oh, so you have smooth sailing up there on 109, do you, Murphy?
I need to get on that 109.
Oh, it's nice. It's nice until it's not. But anyway, so I go by and I say, hey, I'm back for the sensor deal. And I told them the story. And they, oh, okay, yeah, that happens from time to time. Can we get your keys? And I said, well, I am going out of town this weekend. This was last week. I'm going out of town this weekend. Can you go ahead and do, because once you get tires and rims, and I had a leveling kit put on my truck, they say, bring it back after 500 miles, and we do a tightening test. We do a shakedown on it to make sure that everything's nice and tight and secure. It's a safety measure. And I said, well, I've only put 200 miles on the truck so far, but do you want to go ahead and do that 500-mile deal? And they said, no, that you go ahead and take your trip to Athens, and then you bring it back and bring it back later. And I said, okay. So they fixed the tire sensor. Well, halfway to Athens, the tire sensor comes back on.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so there it goes. So I get all the way back. So last night, I leave work. I go up to Hendersonville, and I stop in at 5 o'clock. And this is the interaction that I had. All I can tell you is the interaction that I had. I said, hey, I'm back again. You guys reset my tire sensors on my truck. I got tires and rims. The sensor has gone back off again. It's on the left rear tire. I need you to handle it. And while I'm here, can you go ahead and do the 500-mile Titan test on my truck? And the guy said, well, no, we can't do that. And I said, what do you mean you can't do that? And he goes, well, it's too late. And it was 5 o'clock. And I said, well, you stay open until 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah. I said, how long does it take? And he goes, well, there's people in front of you. I said, listen, I've already come once to do this tire sensor deal. You're telling me I have to come back to do the can you just ask? And he said he could. So he takes it back. 20 minutes later, he brings the truck back. The tire sensor, he says, is fixed. And they went ahead and did the tightening on the 500-mile thing, which for some reason, as he was telling it to me, I didn't believe it. But whatever, maybe it's true. But I feel like he just told me that. But whatever. I'm going to let that go. I'm a nice guy. So I get into the truck, and I'm driving down the highway, and I get about, almost to 109 on 386. And guess what comes on, Ken?
The tire light.
Bingo. Ken is the smartest man in news. This is what a real journalist does. He listens and he figures things out, kids.
Yeah,
the tire sensor light's back on. And I'm like, so I didn't have a chance to. But I'm going to go up again today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk in with a smile on my face, and I'm going to say, guys, we're going to figure this out together. I feel like if we put our heads together, we can figure this thing out. We're in this together, man. We can get this.
We might need to air up all 4 tires.
I mean,
to the factory setting.
I don't know if I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Because there's one person in this facility that is not reportedly a tire and rim expert. And that's me.
That's you.
So I'm not going to be a lot of help. But I do know this. If I have to come back up here again, I'm going to have to start charging y'all gas money. Because it's like 35 miles.
That's a pretty long way to go get a tire light check.
That's a big old truck.
And it is a big old truck. It eats a lot of gas. I mean, drinks.
TB says, call ahead and make an appointment. An appointment for what?
Get your tire light.
I just don't know what the struggle is. I don't get it. I don't get what the struggle is.
It's all those bells and whistles.
I'll tell you what.
It's all those lights.
I tell you what. There's a lot of people on the super text line that have it figured out, though. A lot of people. Brian says, how did we survive before we had tires? Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I've got a tire check. I've got a pressure gauge in my truck.
Yes, sir.
if you would disengage this stupid sensor, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'll be good. I'll check the tires myself. 60 pounds per. Let's go.
Yeah, I hate those things.
I just, but what I can't do is have the thing beeping at me and blinking at me, and the little thing on the corner, it's constantly blinking, and then occasionally the thing just pops up, tire sensor gauge inactive or something like that.
Tells you when it's not working. You have a light.
TB says, no, TB, I don't know if TB, are you pulling my chain here? TB says, well, you should pull the fuse. I shouldn't do a damn thing. The people that I just paid $3,800 should do it. That's who should do it. You know, the people that I paid money, a lot of money, to do the job properly. Oh, TB, you're doing this on purpose to get me fired up. Now you just want me to talk about transgenders. I'll do it, too.
Oh.
My tire gauge is dragging in the dirt. Can't get it up. Anyway, how are you, Ken? I'm
doing good, man. I didn't have one issue this morning on I-24. There were no ladders. However, there had been an accident. Looked like somebody rear-ended somebody else, and the entire taillight fixture came out into the right-hand lane there at 24 right before you get to Briley Parkway. That was causing quite a mess, but I went right on by with no problem and got here in, I think it only took about 45 minutes.
Well, that's good.
It was real good.
I mean, that's solid for you boys down in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, I was in a good mood.
Well, I'm in a good mood too. I'm probably in a better mood than this opening segment suggests, but we're going to make it through together until 3 o'clock. We'll hand off to the drive at that time. So a lot of suggestions about what I should be doing on the tire situation. I'm not complaining except to say that, you know, I would think that if you go into a place of business whose specialty, I mean, I'm not knocking the place. I mean, it could be a bad, whatever. I'm just suggesting that I felt like I was a huge inconvenience last night at 5 o'clock, and then they still didn't fix the problem. And so now I got to go back. And, you know, the first thing I'm going to say, kid, I'm going to walk in, I'm going to say, I promise y'all I don't want to be here. I promise y'all that the last place I want to be right now. I love my rims and my tire. They're great. Yeah. They're great. It's just I got a little sensor problem that I need to deal with.
Dude, get you a button-up shirt and a little hat like Strother Martin wore in The Cool Hand Luke and say, "What? I don't like it any more than you, man."
And that's the way he wants it.
Well, he gets it.
Yes. We have here failure to... Yeah, I'm going to turn rabbit on him. That's the truth. Seemed like it. What'd you have to say 50 for?
Why not 25?
Seemed like a nice round number. Don't get me started. Get mad at them. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get mad at them damn eggs.
Yes, sir.
No, John says, oh, malcontent Murphy. That's right. I can't be pleased. How dare I suggest that I shouldn't have to go back 4 different times to get the sensor checked? It's 20. I think I've got a line on who made y'all aware of all of this.
I had no idea.
Uh-huh.
I did not.
Bell K did. Hey, Bell, it's episode 698 of our visits together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We invite all of you to watch on the television side of things. Talk TV is up and running, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Like and subscribe when you watch over there. You can also join us on any internet streaming platform of your choosing. Just type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And then, of course, there's the good old radio, 99.7 on your FM dial. Locks for Trump Day 263 for those of you joining us on the television side. Bell doesn't, which is why we call him Headless Bell, in as much as he chooses not to participate on television like Ken Weaver and yours truly. Episode 698 is entitled by him, and today's title.
Matt Murphy Show. Anyone have a good election to sweat over? We're having withdrawals.
I know. I know. All this winning.
Yeah,
Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump was
I'm
right.
getting tired of winning.
I'm getting tired of winning. All of this winning. I will suggest to you that Senate Republicans need to stand down if on their complaints about Donald Trump's cabinet picks. And I got a few things to say to our fellow our fellow, well, I won't say our fellow Republicans because I'm not a Republican, but the Republicans in Congress, particularly the Republicans in the United States Senate, before you start moaning and complaining about the selections that Donald Trump's making, maybe you ought to do your job. Maybe you should do your job. A job that you weren't doing yesterday on Capitol Hill. I've got more on that in just a moment, including a criticism of our own Bill Haggerty coming up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Start the Super Talk TV video feed now on YouTube, Facebook, X, or Twitch. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy, and I would like to update you on exciting news from our friends at Brentwood Hearing Center. Their team of audiology doctors are obviously committed to providing patients with the latest in incredible technology, and now they have recently launched their Phonak Sphere technology. It is a hearing device that is dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations where there's extensive background noise. That's always been a tricky situation, right? If you're in a situation like a sporting event or a noisy dinner party, how do you hear the person in front of you without picking up all of that background noise as a result? Well, the Phonak Sphere can solve these things, and it can be demonstrated today at the Brentwood Hearing Center. If you're having difficulty hearing conversation where there's background noise, give them a call today. Really, if you're having trouble hearing, give them a call today. Brentwood Hearing Center, better hearing for a better life. Here's that number, 615-377-0420, 377-0420. You can also find them online at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. Better hearing for a better life. It's Brentwood Hearing Center.
Keep an eye out for a 2017 green Subaru Forester. It's got a specialty license plate, Tennessee tag, Woman Veteran 4779, part of a TBI Silver Alert for a 67-year-old Clarksville woman not seen since yesterday. An emotional day in a Georgia courtroom where illegal immigrant Jose Ibarra found guilty of murdering Laken Riley. We're going to let you hear from her mother coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, thanks, friends, for all of your support in these in these last few minutes. By the way, I just got a great telephone call from the man who
Trump?
No, from the shop that I was in Hendersonville. And listen, I love those guys. I'm not knocking those guys. I mean, things happen. So please don't think that I'm slamming on those guys.
No.
I'm really not. It's just a weird situation. So I got a call from the man whose name is on the door.
Yes, sir.
And he's like, I want to solve this. I want to help you. Let me know how I can help you.
Yes, sir.
And so I appreciate that. Thank you so much for you calling me, and we'll get it worked out. I mean, he was like, how many times have you been out? And we got to get this fixed. And so thank you. That's very kind. And that's not the reason. I didn't bring this up. It's Bell's fault that any of this came up.
Dude, I promise you, I had no idea.
Honestly, I didn't know he was talking about that when he brought it up. I think he's being a little deceptive, but, you got to tolerate certain inconsistencies in your news. Oh, wait a minute.
Now, I tell you, boys, I was talking from experience. I guarantee you tomorrow morning, before I hit I-24, the tire light in my little 2013 Hyundai Elantra will be on.
Well, I just want to make clear, before I get away from it, I just want to make clear that I was not knocking. I love these tires. I love these rims. I love the price point on them because they
love the drive up to Hendersonville.
I don't love the drive up to Hendersonville, but that's fine. But I appreciate the fact, and I was not asking for any sort of treatment because I felt bad because he's calling me. The owner is calling me and saying, "Hey, how can I make this right? I don't want to. And I was like, I didn't name you guys on there because I know, but everybody knows who we are up here. So everybody's calling him.
That's not your fault.
People are calling him, telling him that I'm talking about him on the radio. So I'm not trying. Listen, I wanted Brian and the gang to advertise with us. That's what I want. I want to talk good about him, not bad about him. So look,
yes, sir.
So let's not turn this into a negative thing. This is going to be a positive.
Yeah, Ken.
I promise you, I had no idea that happened. I'm telling you, I'm speaking from experience, boys. It happens to me every time it gets cold.
I was not. Todd is accusing me. I was not trying to pull a whoopee. I don't even know what that means.
It means that you're going to claim that you had bias against you when you tried to go in and get service at a store.
Oh, that's right. Todd says, admit it, you were trying to pull a whoopee. I was not trying to pull a whoopee. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It is not a power move. No, y'all stop. I love those guys up there. We're gonna be good. It's all gonna be fun. So
these lights, man. I mean, it's just how they are. They're sensitive.
That's right. My grandfather was a mechanic all of his life. All of his working life. And I'll tell you this story in 20 seconds, then we'll go to news. And my grandfather had a Chevrolet, was it a Chevy S10? Was that? That's right. I think that's right. And no. This was the Ford Ranger that he had. He went from Chevy to Ford. And he had an engine light come on. Well, my grandfather was the best mechanic I ever knew in my life. And he went over that thing from tip to stern, from side to side, could not figure out how to get that engine light off. And it bothered him for the better part of a year. Oh, it wore him out. And he calls me.
And nothing was wrong?
No, nothing was wrong. I mean, he went over the truck.
Yeah.
Nothing was wrong. The engine light was on. And he called me one day. He said, I fixed my engine light problem. I said, oh, did you, Pa? It's been a problem forever. What'd you do? Put a piece of electrical tape over it. Hadn't thought about it since. So,
That's perfect.
Worst case scenario, I just put a piece of tape over that light.
Yeah,
and be
why
done
not?
with it, you know?
What'd you pay for the truck?
A lot.
So, yeah, just stick a piece of tape on it.
Stick a piece of tape on it. 31 after the hour. My apologies for being late. Ken Weaver's got the news on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're talking about plummeting temperatures. That's how the forecasters are putting it. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, keep an eye out for a green Subaru Forester with Tennessee specialty plate. It reads Woman Veteran 4779. That's the vehicle that's part of a silver alert for 67-year-old Patricia Della Vega, missing from Clarksville. Last seen yesterday wearing a white T-shirt, black and gray hoodie, and blue jeans. She has a medical condition that may impair her ability to get back home safely without assistance. Patricia may be traveling again in a 2017 green Subaru Forester, Tennessee Specialty Plate Woman Veteran 4779. See her or that vehicle. Call Clarksville PD or TBI at 1-800-TBI-FIND. An emotional day in a Georgia courtroom today as the family of Laken Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student killed while on a run on the University of Georgia's campus, called for the judge to lock up her killer for the rest of his life. Jose Ibarra, an illegal immigrant, found guilty of her murder. Today, Allison Phillips, Laken's mother, called on the judge, put him away forever.
There is no end to the pain, suffering, and loss that we have experienced or will continue to endure. On that horrific day, my precious daughter was attacked, beaten, and shown no mercy.
Sentencing is getting ready to get underway there in that Georgia courtroom. We'll bring you the very latest. I know what I did was horrible. An emotional Susan Smith today asking a parole board in Columbia, South Carolina for freedom after serving 30 years in prison for drowning her two young sons.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I know that's not enough. I know it's not, but I don't know. I know that just sound like words, but they come from my heart. They really do.
That is Smith's first chance at release since she was jailed in the 1994 killings. The parole board came back with denied. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. Dr. Gill is not just a person that I would recommend you go to. Dr. Gill, Dr. Wendy, Dr. Dominic, Dr. V, and the rest of the team at the Dr. Gill Center, they're qualified chiropractic specialists. And it's not just a matter of me saying, hey, you should go there. I go there because I was in pain, lower back pain, debilitating, making it almost impossible to get out on the golf course and do other outdoor activities. Now I don't worry about it because I have the Dr. Gill team in my corner. You don't have to settle for a clinic that doesn't put you first. And at the Dr. Gill Center, you can choose the place that listens, that cares. Choose the Dr. Gill Center. They have solutions to help you get out of pain, multiple types of solutions like the spinal decompression that I utilized to become pain-free in my lower back. 615-882-4838 is the number, 615-882-4838, or call me painfree.com. Call me painfree.com. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Nashville Safe House. Mark and the team at the Safe House not only want you to stop by and see the incredible selection of safes available to you at Nashville Safe House, but also tune in Saturdays at 5 o'clock for Mark's incredible show that airs right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mark and his team know safety. They understand how to secure your home, your property. They understand how to protect those things to protect you and your family. It is why they always have gun safes sales tax free at the Safe House, and also they have the selection right for you. They have a size, a fire protection rating, a price point, and a brand that is right for you at Nashville Safe House. It is more safes than I've ever seen in my life when you walk into the showroom at Nashville Safe House. And you'll feel the same way because they have more than any place in the Southeast and truly across the United States of America. I mean, they're the largest Browning dealer in the United States for a reason. NashvilleSafehouse.com online, NashvilleSafehouse.com, or stop by and see them. 4th Avenue South, right across the street from City Cemetery. Tell Mark and his team, Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Nashville Safe House. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you. It's, I guess about 20 minutes until 1 o'clock. At 1:05 or thereabouts this afternoon, Metro City Councilor Courtney Johnston will join us on the show to talk about license plate readers and why we do not have them in Davidson County, in Nashville, and also whether or not our bus transit system is safe. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I'm glad that y'all used all that dark money, all that shady advertising to get your transit plan passed in the city of Nashville. Congratulations, half-cent sales tax. I'm happy to see that the realtors of Nashville, Tennessee, spent so much money getting this thing passed, and all these dark money groups from Washington, D.C. Oh, yeah, I've got the story. Glad that that happened. Maybe we should focus a little bit more on the safety of the bus system, considering how many people are getting shot and stabbed on said bus system. I don't think, maybe I'm being a little hard-hearted here, I don't think you're going to encourage people to utilize, I don't care how many routes you have, I don't care how many transit hubs you have, if people are getting shot at the transit hubs, how can you possibly expect that people are going to use the bus? More on that at 1:05 this afternoon on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So I saw a stat last night, and I cannot remember. I think it was the Calvin Coolidge administration, my favorite president in American history. If you had me rank our presidents, I would rank Calvin Coolidge as number one. I would rank, Donald Trump currently has an incomplete. I want to see what he does with fiscal discipline and the federal debt in his second term. I feel good things are coming. I would put Reagan, I'm biased because it happened in my lifetime, but I would put Reagan at number two. But Silent Cal. Great stories, great president, great attitude about the role of government versus the role of commerce and business in the United States of America. Calvin Coolidge is the man that said the business of America is business. That said, I believe it was during his administration, if I'm not mistaken, that it was the last time that a president was elected and the political party in charge was the same in the United States Senate, yet they still rejected a cabinet nomination. Has not happened since the 1920s. And it should not happen now. The President of the United States of America will be, starting January 20th, Donald Trump. The people went to the polls. And in every battleground state, and a popular majority of the electorate went to the polls and we voted for Donald Trump. That is truly a mandate for change in America. We could go over where the missing 10 million votes went, and I understand, I mean, that's a problem that the mainstream media continues to ignore. But we know what happened 4 years ago. And much like they said in the fabulous movie Office Space, we fixed the glitch. Oh, so we're letting him go too? No. We're not we fixed the glitch. It'll work itself out. Well, we fixed the glitch that happened in 2020. this year. The American people did not vote for some rando United States senator out of Oklahoma or out of South Dakota. I mean, I understand that those individual states went to we voted for Marsha Blackburn. But in the midst of all of this debate about who will be the next Senate Majority Leader and who will not be the next Senate Majority Leader, I reminded you, and I'm not taking a victory lap here, but what I said at the time, and I'll repeat it, none of this matters unless they get back to regular order of business. None of this matters unless they're willing to put the hard work to do the job that the American people sent them to do, meaning you have to be at the body. You can't take breaks. You can't take vacation days. You have to be there to do the job. Specifically, if the Democrats want to try to filibuster anything happening in the United States Senate, you make them filibuster. But in order to make them filibuster, your members have to be present. And if I sound annoyed, here's why. From thehill.com. Headline: Republicans fume as GOP absences help Democrats move judicial nominees. There's no excuse for this. None. Except laziness. Senate Republicans aired frustrations yesterday, Tuesday, after Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and other party members skipped votes Monday, greasing the skids for Democrat-backed judicial nominees to be green-lighted as a part of the final push to fill the bench with lifetime appointees before President-elect Trump takes office. Republicans attempted to slow down an effort by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to advance more than a dozen judicial nominees Monday, hoping to prevent Democrats from completing one of their priorities before they cede power at the end of the year. However, they were unable to stop them because a handful of GOP members did not show up to the Capitol for votes, which stretched until midnight. Headlining that group were Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, Senator Marco Rubio, who has been slated for a position at Secretary of State as the Secretary of State. But there were more. There were more. More on that in a moment. Senator Tom Tillis, North Carolina, if we don't show up, we lose. He was visibly frustrated by a lack of attendance and spoke out at lunch. I don't care what the reasons were. We have fewer than 15 scheduled legislative days. You have to show up, period. End of story. There's nothing more important. We've got potentially dozens who could have who we could have shoved at. Stand by. Let me correct that. Boop, boop. He continued. We've got potentially dozens we could have shoved down our throat, except for us being here. Pointing specifically to a Fourth Circuit nominee that could make it through if Republican absences continue. We got to talk to these folks like adults and show up. A group of nominees, including Embry Kidd, who was confirmed to serve on the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals by a 49-45 vote, despite even Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, or I guess he's an independent now, voting against his nomination. If Republicans had shown up and Senator John Fetterman's absence held, the GOP would have defeated the nomination temporarily. If all the senators show up, including Fetterman, it would have forced a tie-breaking vote by VP Harris. So, but Harris, the vice president, you know where she is?
On vacation.
Hawaii. That's right. She's
staying at Obama's house?
I don't know. Good question. Harris left Washington for Hawaii Tuesday, depriving the Democrats of a potential ability to break a 50-50 tie. Despite that math, GOP decided not to show up. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, not there. Senator Ted Cruz, not there. Senator Bill Hagerty, not there. Cruz and Hagerty tagged along with Donald J. Trump to the SpaceX Starship launch in Brownsville, Texas, which is all well and good if you don't have a job to do elsewhere. And I think he did it again last night, or tried to. Senator John Kennedy, on a scale of 1 to 10, a 12 when asked about his level of frustration at the situation. A number of Biden's nominees, particularly at the Court of Appeals, they think they're qualified to be a federal judge. If I've seen my cousin Vinny and I don't agree with him. That's pretty funny in a John Kennedy voice, but I didn't do it in a John Kennedy voice. In other words, what's more important, hanging out with Trump at SpaceX or doing your job? I mean, I understand we're doing a victory lap, and I understand all well and good, and that's wonderful, and Trump's coming in and his cabinet appointments. These are the same senators that are going to be very concerned when it comes to Trump's appointments. Oh, we have some concerns about the appointment of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the Health and Human Services Secretary. You didn't have concerns when these knucklehead activist judges were crammed through in November of 2024, did you? You were gone. There is no quarter in my world for these senators. None. They are treated like kings. And I've seen it. All of them. They have these palatial suite of offices in their respective buildings, Russell or Hart. They walk down the hall and people get out of the way. They bow and kiss the ring. I mean, it's ridiculous how they're treated. And whatever. I mean, whatever. You know, to the victor goes the spoils. The only thing we expect you to do is do the job that you were sent up there to do for the American people, Bill Haggerty. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I guess I did. This is important. Watching the launch of SpaceX is not important. And I understand everybody's jockeying and everybody wants a seat at the table when it comes to the cabinet appointments, and perhaps Senator Bill Haggerty is angling for that Treasury spot. We haven't filled that yet, right? I don't think so. They did fill education. I like that McMahon got education, which is funny to me. Vance, who missed all of Monday night's votes, in addition to the first one Tuesday, received the lion's share of criticism. The outgoing Ohio senator initially defended his decision, saying he was meeting with Trump as a part of interviews for potential candidates to become FBI director and other slots. Quote, I tend to think it's more important to get an FBI director who will dismantle the deep state than it is for Republicans to lose a 49-46 rather than 49-45, he said. However, he then backtracked and deleted his social media post and then showed up for a pair of Senate votes Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, not exactly the best look to say, hey, I don't need to do my job for the rest of my term as senator. I got a vice presidency to run or whatever. Look, I'm telling you, unless the United States Senate is willing to put in the work, none of this means anything. Unless they're willing to demand, I guarantee you these Democrats will try to filibuster. And unless you demand that they actually filibuster, they actually get to the floor. And in order to do that, you have to be on the floor too. Voting members present, not voting members of the body, voting members present. That is what you should expect moving forward. And for those in Aniana that don't understand the difference, when you're talking about voting members, those voting members can be anywhere, right? And that's what they do when it comes to filibuster. The only way to break a filibuster is to have voting members present. I hope that makes sense. But that's my disappointment of the day. It's 52 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, all November long, we're saying thank you to our fine sponsors like the Glock Store for everything that they do to help us bring you what we hope to be excellent programming month to month and throughout the course of the year. Thank you so much to the Glock Store. They're great people, and besides, they have a wonderful company. If you've not been, you need to go. It's one of my favorite places to go, for the holidays. That's right. If you have a gun enthusiast in your life, or if you are that gun enthusiast, you can make a list and check it twice and hand it off to the people in your life that are going to buy you your holiday gifts. Whether it's an accessory or ammo, or maybe it's Shoot 270 range sessions. These are great gifts for the holidays. They've got all kinds of things at the Glock store. Beautiful showroom, incredible selection, the best selection of Glocks that you'll ever see, and a selection of other guns besides. The Glock store. I love that they're a business that employs so many Nashvillians. I love that they picked us as home. They ship all over the United States of America, really all over the country, not just, they're a nationwide online retailer at glockstore.com. The Glock Store, good people, and we thank them during this holiday season. Glockstore.com or shoot270.com. Stop by and see them and tell them Matt Murphy sent you.
Keep an eye out for a 2017 green Subaru Forester with Tennessee tag that says Woman Veteran 4779, part of a TBI silver alert for a 67-year-old Clarksville woman missing since yesterday. We got a guilty verdict in Lake and Riley's murder and parole denied for Susan Smith. And we're going to let you hear what it was like in both courtrooms coming up at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Looking forward to that, and that's in a mere moment or two. We'll get to those headlines in just a moment of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll get back into issues involving Washington, D.C., transgender bathrooms. For some reason, we're talking about that again. I suppose it's because of this representative that's openly transgender coming in. And no, you can't use the women's room just because you want to. You're a dude. Use the guy's room. More on that on the way, but we'll turn our attention to Davidson County politics with Metro City Councilor Courtney Johnston. She is up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
One o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Temperatures going to start dropping soon. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, we've got a TBI silver alert for 67-year-old Patricia Della Vega missing from Clarksville. Authorities ask that you keep an eye out for a 2017 green Subaru Forester with Tennessee specialty plate Woman Veteran 4779. If you see that vehicle or her, you're asked to call Clarksville PD or TBI at 1-800-TBI-FIND. An emotional day in a Georgia courtroom today as the family of Lake and Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student killed while on a run on the University of Georgia's campus, called for the judge to lock up her killer, illegal immigrant Jose Ibarra, for the rest of his life. This is Laken's mother, Allison Phillips.
Your Honor, I'm asking you to please give Jose Ibarra the same thing he gave us when he made the choice to take Laken's life and destroy ours. He showed no mercy on Laken when she was begging for her life.
Prosecutors did not ask for the death penalty, but the judge listened to Laken's family and they rendered a life sentence without parole for Ibarra. President-elect Trump weighing in on Truth Social in all caps, justice for Lake and Riley. Although the pain and heartbreak will last forever, hopefully this can help bring some peace and closure to her wonderful family who fought for justice and to ensure that other families don't have to go through what they have. We love you, Laken, and our hearts will always be with you. It is time to secure our border and remove these criminals and thugs from our country so nothing like this can happen again. Well, it was a case that captivated the nation 30 years ago when a mother killed her own children by driving her car into a lake, then tried to blame it on a black man who she said had carjacked her. But there was no carjacking. Today, Susan Smith tried for parole. Here's Alex Stone.
I want to say how very sorry I am.
30 years after drowning her two sons by rolling her car into a South Carolina lake while they were strapped into their car seats, Susan Smith pleaded with a parole board to let her out of prison.
I know I made a lot of mistakes.
Her ex-husband and the boy's father told the parole board Smith purposely ended their lives.
I miss him very much.
Moments later, in a quick vote, the parole board unanimously denied Smith her freedom.
The vote is unanimous.
There are now 39 confirmed cases of E. coli linked to carrots in 18 states. One person died. 15 others had to be hospitalized. The carrots coming from California. 40-year-old Melinda Pratt spent 3 days in the hospital after eating carrots grown by Grimway Farms in California. She is now the first to file a lawsuit.
Couldn't handle this stomach cramping anymore. It was making me drip sweat.
These carrots were sold under numerous different brand names for stores like Walmart, Costco, Whole Foods, Kroger, Target, and Trader Joe's. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It is hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's our episode 698. I hope we make it to 699 and even beyond, into the 700s. Thank you for being with us on this Wednesday. We've got Cameron Smith coming up next hour to break down some of the Washington, D.C. activity. The idea that senators can't go to do their jobs, it's just infuriating to me. Infuriating to think that we would have some Democrat lifetime appointments as a result of their inability to do their job. But we're gonna set that aside for just a moment and talk about issues more local to our community with our next guest. So we haven't really discussed it much in the aftermath of Donald Trump securing a victory and a mandate across the United States of America. There's a lot of good news to talk about, a lot of good news out of D.C. and across the state of Tennessee. I do not believe that it's good news that the people of Davidson County will be taxed more than they already are, but it is the case that the voters of Davidson County selected this transit tax to go into effect, a half-cent sales tax, and look, just in time for a lot of shootings and stabbings on the bus system. Isn't that lovely? To discuss this, to discuss license plate readers, to discuss other measures that could be in place regarding safety and elimination of crime, we welcome back to the show a woman that I like to say is our good friend, Courtney Johnston, who is a Metro counselor, and she joins us in studio. Hey, Courtney.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was telling the story to Courtney about how I was rattling off at the mouth on this tire sensor thing, and then the owner of the business called me, and I said, I make a habit of making enemies and then making friends. But we're friends now.
True.
Yeah?
Now.
Hey, Courtney, you
Yeah.
have to let me know how you made that happen because it's not working for
I know.
me.
Well, I was just my always sweet self.
Listen, I had nothing to do with it. She had everything to do with it. All I know is that after the aftermath of all of that, I saw Courtney at an event, and I was like, I want to be friends. And she was like, well, tough luck.
No, that's not. No, we didn't even talk at that event.
You gave me the evil eye.
I did not make eye contact with you, Matt.
I thought I saw the evil eye. One way or the other, I love what you're doing on the Metro Council. And I told you the last time you were here, I regretted not voting for you in the primary. So there it is.
Thank you.
And I maintain that. So how was the council meeting last night?
Extremely frustrating.
Talk to me. Why?
Well, so anytime we have any sort of legislation related to the police department, it is the biggest hoopla. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a grant for something as innocuous as you would think, like we had last night on the agenda, to accept a grant to be able to for software to survey the community on, what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, or whatever. You can figure out what the questions are, but regardless, it's a survey software. And we deferred that.
Why?
Well, again, it doesn't matter what it is. This body will microanalyze and defer because it's for the police department. If it was for any other department, I can guarantee you it would go on consent. But because it's the police department, watch out. Oh, Lord, we can't trust them with that data. It'll be used against us. A survey that we control what the questions are, it's just absolute nonsense. But then the bigger issue yesterday was FUSIS, which a lot of people, we talk a lot about LPRs, and people, for the most part, know what a license plate reader is. FUSIS was on the agenda last night. It's an integration software. And it's incredibly helpful for efficiency and effectiveness for the police department in that not only does it track where our assets are, so we know where patrol cars are, we know where, all that stuff. So when a call for service comes up on our map in the command center, we see, oh, there's 2 patrol cars right here near that we can dispatch very quickly. But it also allows private commercial business owners to allow us in a variety of levels to either say, hey, we have a camera system in case something happens, just know that we have a camera system. Or they can say, we have a camera system and you can integrate into it. That business purchases whatever software it is that they need to do. And when a call for service comes up, that's when they can go into that system and look and see what's going on. So if you have an active shooter situation, maybe at a gas station or something, or at a WeGo, transit center, possibly. Hint, hint.
Never been any crime at WeGo. Come on.
Super unfortunate.
Yeah, it's bad.
But you can pull up real time and see what's going on so that you can communicate with your patrol officers, the responding officers, to know, hey, this is what we're seeing, and you can respond more effectively. But just from an investigation perspective, we see it all the time where investigators go knocking. Hey, we see you have a camera system. There was something that happened here at whatever. Can we access your cameras? Oh, sure. Rarely do they say no.
Right, pause for a second. So that goes on, and that's perfectly legal, obviously.
Sure, 100%.
Right? It's perfectly legal for private businesses to set up camera systems around their business.
Right.
And it's perfectly permissible, and I would frankly say welcomed that the Metro Police, in order to solve crimes, would go, hey, Courtney, I see you own a business and you got a camera. Would you mind us accessing this because there was a crime here and we want to stop all that? And the business owner is going to obviously, in most cases, say absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, and we've had over 1,000 area businesses just in a short time opt into it, saying, yeah, we want to be helpful. And so that contract, we looked to extend it because we didn't want to get into a long-term contract. We wanted to make sure that it worked for us. So we did a pilot program for about a year. They came back and said, look, it took us a while just to let people know, hey, we have this. Do you want to opt in? So it took a while to get it ramped up. Hey, instead of doing another, like a 5-year long-term contract, let's just extend the pilot for a year. Well, that's when it triggered, well, wait a minute. This is a bill related to surveillance. It has to go before the council. So it stopped about a year ago. So we had to stop that. And so it came back again two meetings ago, which is a month ago. Well, we deferred it again. And then we had public hearing last night, which lasted for 2 hours. And all the usual suspects were there that typically come and speak against, especially things related to the police department. It's like no surprise there. A lot of them reading the exact same statements over and over again for 2 hours. And then it was deferred because, well, now we're going to modify the language in the contract, which it's like, okay.
So this is a program that has been piloted for a year.
Correct.
And what have the results been? Positive? What are the police saying about the relationships that they've created? Has it been a good thing?
Yeah, it has been absolutely a good thing. And so just especially the integration part of the camera system, Fusus does more than that. But the integration of the camera systems, because it requires people opting in and education around it, it took a while to ramp up. And so we wanted to make 100% sure before we make a long-term investment in this. So we were just trying to extend that pilot for another year.
Okay, so and I just want to clean this up from a libertarian perspective, right? Because I understand that the concerns are, well, my civil liberties are being violated because these spaces are being surveilled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right. So the private businesses have to be the ones that opt in.
100%.
Right, and so can they opt out?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if I'm a private business and I do this and I think, you know what, I've been thinking about it and I don't, for whatever reason, whether it's just, ideological or whatever, I just don't want to do this, I can just shut it down.
Correct. And also, anytime their system is accessed,
they know.
They are notified about it.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good point. So the police can't just access this availability whenever they want and not tell them. Correct.
And it's not designed to say, oh, I wonder what's going on at 123 Main Street. Let's see what cameras are there and just turn on access those cameras and just check it out. That's not what is there. It has to be related to a call for service, and there's an audit trail related to that. What cameras were accessed, why, what's the call for service that was related to it, and who accessed it.
There was a recent, very, very high-profile national, if not international, story that I think could relate to this, and it's the Raleigh strain, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is an example of how this system, I would think, could be utilized, where the police recognize that they have a missing person. They have a general idea of what direction that missing person went. Mm-hmm. They find out which businesses have opted into their system, so they don't have to do the legwork to go to those individual businesses. Do you have cameras? Can we go over the cameras, et cetera, et cetera? And then I would think that this system would have the technology to be able to rapidly get to a point where they can identify the individual if that person be on camera. I mean, I was talking the other day about some of this technology that's available on these surveillance systems. It's incredible, where you can use a program to say, okay, like festivals use it, where they can literally put in criteria, female, blonde hair, white shirt, and over a 48-hour festival period, they can just pull up instantaneously the number of people that came into the festival with a white shirt, female, blonde hair. I like the idea of utilizing that technology with openness. I mean, obviously, open government is incredibly important. We need to know what our government's doing, but utilizing that level of technology to help solve crime and to stop crime.
100%. And as we move into the future, more and more we're going to have to rely on technology. That is just a fact. And so we need to be smart about it, and we need to balance privacy and public safety. But at the same time, this is going to be a conversation that we're going to continue to have. The three main objections that people had was, well, I can be sitting on my front porch and people can watch and see who's coming in and out of my house. Unless you live across the street from the MAPCO or whatever commercial business and they've got a really awesome system, that is absolutely false. This is not for residential systems. We're not accessing your Ring doorbell camera. That's not.
So no residents.
No residents. And
Okay.
that is very, very specific. Then they were concerned about the homeless population, which I do not understand that at all. And also immigration enforcement, which also is something that is a broader subject that, first of all, ICE, I don't think, would use this to find someone based off of, like, if you're going to pull up a commercial business camera, how do I know if you're legal, illegal, whatever? ICE has databases that we don't even know exist. If they want to find you, they're going to find you, and they don't need FUSIS to do it.
So I'm curious if you are listening and you have any questions on the super text line of Courtney Johnston, please get them in, 615-737-9986. Already somebody says, and I think we're answering this question right now, how would the entrepreneur or business owner know if their system was accessed if they weren't told it was accessed? And I think that they have to be, right?
Yes, they are told, and they also know what day and time that it was accessed, why it is accessed, like what the call for service was that's related to it. And if we retain any of that, it would be for, investigative or prosecutorial situations, and they also are aware of that.
Well, and 3618 brings up, I think, a valid point. Does the government really tell you what they are supposed to tell you when they are supposed to tell you? That's a valid point. That's up to us to monitor,
True.
Right? I mean, I understand that if these are the rules, then we have to make sure that everybody's abiding by the rules as set forth by the legislation.
Absolutely. What I would say is, when you are at a commercial business, when you are on a public roadway, if you have an expectation of privacy, that is a false expectation.
Correct. No doubt.
You can go into the Walgreens, you can go into the Kroger. Trust me, you're on camera. And so what's really the difference? Right. And I've always maintained that my privacy is not more important than your safety. And so time after time, we see these heinous crimes that happen. And how do we solve them? It's some camera somewhere, typically.
Well, I mean, I think there are lines. I mean, and we all have, I was talking to somebody last night about, where we're drawing the lines between types of safety and our personal privacy. And I would say that, if you knock on the door, if a police officer knocks on my door at 1 o'clock in the morning and says, hey, we've had the report that there's an assailant in the neighborhood and we think that assailant might be in your home. We want to look through your home. I would tell them, no, I'll take care of that. Thank you very much. Right? I mean, I'll go look through my home and make sure that there's nobody in my house.
Sure.
So, I mean, we all have obviously no one's...
Note to self, I won't
Well,
come in
you know
your
what I'm
home.
saying? I mean, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so
no, 100%.
They would argue, well, public safety dictates that I need to search your house. Well, no, the Fourth Amendment
Correct.
indicates that you do not get to search my house. And there are other aspects of that too, automobile searches or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people in public spaces. And do you have an expectation? Modern technology has dictated that. You should not have an expectation that if you're walking down Broadway that you're on a gajillion cameras, for goodness sake. And if you don't want to be, then
stay home. Really,
stay home. Really, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, if you want to live in a world where there are no surveillance cameras anymore, we don't live in that world anymore.
Well, and it is sad when you think about it. It's, we are in that world where we do have to have cameras. And I do feel like it makes me feel better that I've got cameras watching in case something happens, that at least, someone's got a leg up on trying to find whoever hurt me or took me, or they would bring me back. But if they took me or whatever bad would happen to me, when I was growing up, I don't think we had that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No,
I
you're
mean,
right.
our doors were unlocked, our bicycles were in the front yard.
It's a different world.
Right. And it's a totally different world. It's unfortunate, but we still need to do whatever we can to make our communities safer.
And so, I mean, so I'm respectful of, and those of you who are listening, you know that I'm respectful of the line that that's where civil liberties and public safety meet, and we all kind of define where we want that line to be on our own, and you have to figure it out. The problem is that Courtney's dealing with a group at the Metro Council, dare I say, that they don't want to have that discussion at all. Apparently, they don't want to give the tools, whatever tools the Metro Nashville police are asking for. They don't want to give them those tools. We're going to get to a few calls here in a moment with Courtney Johnston. It's 22 after the hour. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN and the Matt Murphy Show. Did you hear me talking about the weather earlier in the show? I mean, it is getting to 48 degrees tomorrow in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, and the lows are getting into the freezing zone. So if you've not had your heater taken care of with efficient heating and cooling, it is time to make those calls, friends. I mean, believe it or not, the cool weather of fall is here in Middle Tennessee, and it's time to get that heater taken care of through a maintenance program with efficient heating and cooling. Now, Jeff Eddy tells you he never will charge you over $125, and oftentimes it's quite less than that. Here's the deal, friends. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling will come to your home, and no matter how many units you have, they're going to go through all of them, maintenance all of them, make sure everything's clean as can be so you don't smell that smell when you turn on the heater. He'll take care of it, and he will extend the life of that unit as a result. And he never charges you at a residence maintenance call over $125. And like I say, much times it's much less than that. They're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. There will come a time when he has to deliver the bad news that your heating unit needs to be replaced. And when that time comes, they have options for you at Efficient Heating and Cooling. Go to efficienthvac.net, efficienthvac.net, or 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient.
Still no sign of 67-year-old Patricia Della Vega missing from Clarksville, the subject of an active TBI silver alert. And you've got to hear the emotional testimony from a courtroom in Georgia and a parole board in South Carolina coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So Chris Hand, thank you, Ken Weaver, by the way. Ken Weaver coming up in just a couple of minutes. Chris Hand is our 9 to noon show. And Chris and I are great friends. He does a great job from 9 to noon. I am taking no accountability or responsibility for what I'm about to do, but he wanted me to play a clip for Courtney Johnston when he found out that Courtney was coming on. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And I know Courtney's get her a mic on there. She's a little concerned. And I don't blame you. But I try to make good on my promises when I make them. And so I made a promise that I would play this clip. So here it is.
My specific question was the new chick with a dick in Congress. What are we going to do to keep him from coming in our bathrooms?
That's Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about transgender restrooms in Washington, D.C. Do you have any position on transgender restrooms in Washington, D.C.?
I love what a kick you're getting out of this. I would say...
well, I mean, isn't it ridiculous?
I just think we've got a lot more serious things that we could be discussing at the moment, and this is more of a distraction than anything, and it's unfortunate.
Well, sadly, the political left doesn't have a lot of refuge in Washington right now, so I guess they're trying to take refuge. Yeah, well, she's in Hawaii right now. Okay, I made good on my promise. You don't really have to comment on it, except that I told him that I would, so I did.
Yeah.
So Andrew's on the line out of Nashville, and he's got a thought on cameras and the like. Hello, Andrew. Welcome in. You're on with Courtney Johnston and Matt Murphy.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Courtney. Yeah, you touched on something, and it's something I think that this misconception that people have a right to privacy once they step out of their front door off their property. I watch a lot of OP live on Friday and Saturday nights, and as soon as somebody's pulled over, a cameraman's in their face, and they're spilling out what they think is their rights is don't film me. And I think a large portion of people believe that it's illegal for some reason that you as soon as you tell somebody that they have to put the camera away. And I think leading with that in a meeting saying, as soon as you step off your property, you have no right to privacy. Anybody can film you. And I've seen people get hysterically mad because they don't know and they're not educated. And I think educating the people would help this process go forward.
That's a great point.
No, Andrew, it is a good point. We're going to reflect on that in just a moment with Courtney Johnston. You can stick around for one more segment, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little more. Let me ask you this before we go to Ken. So it was deferred.
Yes.
Meaning we're just sitting on the program right now?
Supposedly the administration is going to be putting forth an amendment to the contract language that deals with ICE. My fear around that is that whatever language it is, and I have not seen it, would violate our sanctuary city laws here in Tennessee and make the entire thing preempted, which I try to avoid. Mm-hmm. Additionally, in my opinion, and I've been through this with my LPRs for 3 years, it doesn't matter what you put in, what language, what amendment, whatever. These no votes are going to be no votes. Period. End of story.
And they're always going to find a problem with it.
So, yes, I mean, there's a reason why the United States government does not negotiate with terrorists. And to me, it's along the same lines. It doesn't matter what you give them or acquiesce. It's never going to be enough because they are inherently against it, period.
I'm going to ask you a question in a moment, and it would be unfair to do it now because we've got to get to Ken. But I'm curious if some of these counselors are just anti-police to the point that they do not care about the crime. And that's the way it feels. Hold your thought. Courtney Johnston's with us. It's 30 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Tell you about the big temperature drop they say is coming our way. Right now in Middle Tennessee, still no sign of 67-year-old Patricia Della Vega missing from Clarksville, part of TBI's Silver Alert, active right now. They're asking you keep an eye out for a green Subaru Forester 2017 model with Tennessee specialty plate Woman Veteran 4779. And if you see her or the vehicle, you're asked to call 1-800-TBI-FIND. The family of Laken Riley telling the judge who found the illegal immigrant accused of murdering her guilty today, asking that same judge to show no mercy.
This sick, twisted, and evil coward showed no regard for Laken or human life. We are asking that same be done to him.
Then Judge H. Patrick Haggard to Jose Ibarra.
Count 1, malice murder. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole.
Meanwhile, in Columbia, South Carolina today, Susan Smith, convicted of intentionally drowning her 2 sons 30 years ago, pleaded for release by the parole board.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I know that's not enough. I know it's not, but I don't know. I know they just have like words, but they come from my heart. They really do.
Smith's ex-husband and father of their boys had his say.
I miss them very much. And I love them very much. And I will be here every 2 years going forward.
Parole was denied. An atmospheric river headed toward California. Power company Brass assuring customers they have resources in place to help restore outages as fast as they can.
We want customers to be prepared themselves, so that's making sure that devices are charged, electronic devices are charged. Stay away from any downed power lines. Treat any downed power line as live. Call 911.
Yeah, some parts of Oregon and California could see feet of rain. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You know, there's one reason to love U.S. Pest, and that is they are the presenting sponsor of the Matt Murphy Show on a daily basis. There's another reason to love U.S. Pest, and it's that they do a great job at eliminating these little communist bugs that want to come into your home and steal all of your things. I mean, tell me what you would call them, right? These are critters that you didn't invite onto your property that want to come onto your property and enjoy your warmth in your walls or in your crawl space. They want to enjoy whatever food they can find in your home, and they want to do so without offering any sort of recompense. I mean, little communist bugs are inside of your home right now, unless you have U.S. Pest. U.S. Pest, in all seriousness, reminds you you need pest service and pest control over the winter months. I understand that some of the annoyance bugs of the summer are gone for the winter months, but that doesn't mean that you don't have roaches, that you don't have brown recluse spiders and other things inside of your home, and obviously rodents are a problem this time of year as well. Full-service pest control, termite protection, and crawl space service at U.S. Pest, Great American Company. USPest.com, USPest.com, or call them today at 590-1260. Tell them I sent you to U.S. Pest. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy Show 138. Courtney Johnston in studio with us talking some local matters, primarily matters involving crime and punishment of crime and catching the criminals. The Metro Nashville Police. I mean, so correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to oversimplify this. The police department has been clear that they want LPRs, right?
For years.
They've been begging for those. They have shown to be quite effective in surrounding areas. My adopted hometown of Mount Juliet right now, I mean, they catch criminals all the time coming out of Hermitage, coming out of Donaldson, coming out of places that don't have them.
Yeah, Davidson County.
Right.
Yeah.
So forgive me for oversimplifying, but is the holdup people that simply are going to, on the city council, I mean, well, I guess on LPRs, that's not the holdup anymore, right?
Well, so last night, when we had the public hearing, they were conflating, and you heard LPR a lot, and it's like, we're not even talking about LPRs, we're talking about FUSIS. And so it's going to be the same arguments
Police
about that.
ability to surveil the community to catch criminals.
Correct. Well, and the over-policing of the immigrant community or the over-policing of whatever, pick something. And it's really like, well, it's a license plate, and we're only looking for you from a criminal perspective, if
you've already been flagged.
Right, like you're in the NCIC database, so they're looking for you anyway. This just helps speed up finding you. And also, stolen vehicles. If you wake up in the morning and you go out in the driveway to get in your car and your car's not there, the first thing the police department's going to say is, "What's your license plate?"
Well, and I mean, I had a conversation with sort of a purity libertarian the other day, and I back it up, and then
you're not a real libertarian.
Well, that's right. They roll their eyes. The only way you know you're a real libertarian is if people tell you you're not a real libertarian. But they get the eye roll when I say, "Do you think that cars should be plated?" Because I just need to know where the baseline is. Mm-hmm. Because if you think that cars should be plated, if you agree that we as a society want to plate cars for security and safety reasons, et cetera, then do you then agree that a police officer would have the ability to sit on a street corner and look at the plates? Well, if you agree with that, there's a small step to say that the technology makes it available to not overburden the department by taking that resource away and using technology to do the same thing.
Correct.
And that's what LPRs
That's
are doing.
That's 100% what LPRs are.
And I can't for the life of me understand why the mayor, who has been on this show on numerous occasions, and I'll be honest with you, Courtney, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, I don't know where he is on it. I've talked to him about it 3 separate occasions, and I still don't know where he is on it. He keeps telling me that we're studying it.
Yeah, nobody's studying it. So that's just nonsense. I look at what people do and not necessarily what they say. I take what they say into account, but what they do. And for 8 years on the council, and especially the last term that I served with him, he voted against LPRs every single time. He doesn't want LPRs. So there's an old saying, a tiger doesn't change his stripes. Well, it's a saying for a reason. I do think that there's an aspect of delaying the inevitable, which we're obviously going to have a vote on this at some point, but he failed to put it in the budget, which is a huge problem. And I know that he didn't want to upset the sort of progressive base leading into this transit referendum vote.
Okay.
Let's not rock the boat. Let's keep everybody happy and get transit passed, and then whatever, which I disagree with. It's like one thing... We're not
shouldn't have to do with the other.
Exactly. So, you can listen to what he says, but at the same time, because we can vote on it tomorrow, but we don't have the money because it wasn't put into the budget. And not only was it not put into the budget, M&PD's budget was cut by $4.1 million this year.
Why?
As part of targeted savings. Well, the problem with that is that we don't have enough officers. And so what we use that money for is to put boots on the ground in overtime. Mm-hmm. And so now we're not able to utilize that money for overtime, which means, in my opinion, we are less safe because we're not able to put the resources on the ground that we should be putting. Targeted savings is obviously something that municipal governments use. Well, all governments use. It shouldn't happen necessarily in public safety departments. And that goes across the board: fire, OEM, EMS, all of that.
Let's talk to Brian in Nash with a thought on LPRs. Hello, Brian. Welcome into the conversation.
Well, thank you much. Courtney is my counsel
person, and I can't say enough about her. I wish we had given her a little better chance last time. But I think she needs to change her name to a D next to her name, just so she has a chance of being promoted farther in Nashville, because her ideas are great. We do need this greatly, just for the chance of catching illegals. I look at Belmead and what they're able to accomplish, as well as Mount Juliet. I just think that we're allowing criminals to get by, and we're allowing our government to allow that to happen.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Brian.
I will not be putting a D next to my name. You know, hopefully at some point people will stop, especially in local governments where, you know, partisan politics really should not enter into it, because we don't deal with those types of issues. We deal with public safety. We deal with, you know, running the government, right? Paving the roads, that kind of stuff. So instead of voting down a political line, vote for people that are actually there, number one, for the right reasons, and are not an activist in some way or have some sort of whatever, but also people there that get stuff done.
I talk to, and I have a lot of people hitting me up during this conversation, people that I have great respect for, that say, well, it's a slippery slope. That's my problem with LPRs. And many of these people don't live in Nashville or Davidson County, and you know, maybe they live in more secure areas around the state. But their argument is, and it's a valid one, that, you know, we've seen this in other nations where they begin utilizing this technology, and then it slowly but surely expands to the point that we become a quote-unquote surveillance state. Have you heard that argument, and what's your response to it?
I understand the sentiment, and it all circles around the distrust of government,
Sure.
which the government has very well earned that distrust, in my opinion. But we can't withhold tools from our departments that are tasked with our safety because of the thought that something may go wrong in the future. You put your guardrails in place, and you proceed sort of with caution, I guess. But the alternative to me is not an option. People do not feel safe. We have people getting shot almost on a daily basis here in Davidson County. We have cars being stolen all the time. We've got guns being stolen all of the time. Like, we have issues that need to be handled, and we don't have enough police officers. So LPRs are literally called a force multiplier, because it can do what a police officer can do way faster, way more efficient. And that's what we need. And we're going to have this conversation moving forward into the future, because we are more and more going to have to rely on technology, because guess what? People don't want to be police officers anymore. And why in God's name, if you listened to that meeting last night, why on God's green earth would anybody want to be a police officer in this environment, listening to that nonsense last night? It's alarming. And if you think that our police officers are not listening to that, or our recruits are not listening to that, you're sadly mistaken.
Is part of the problem, and this was a question I got a little earlier, is it a part of the Metro Nashville plan to hire 30% women? Is that official? I don't know if that's official. But
so
it was embedded in a question I asked about, do you agree with these quota type hires?
That was mentioned at the Alliance luncheon. To me, that sounds a lot like DEI,
right.
And I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in saying women aren't, but if you can do the job, great. But I'm not going to say, well, I've got to hire this female over this male because I need to get to 30%. That's nonsense. So I was a little alarmed when I heard that at the presentation, and I was going to actually talk to them about that, and I'm glad whoever that is reminded me. I am not in favor of that. I'm not against women on the police force. In fact, I think that they serve a great purpose, because when you're dealing with constituents that have issues, sometimes a female officer is much better equipped to handle that. And so there are benefits to it. But to say we need 30%, any percentage, is nonsense.
In the few minutes that we have left, and obviously we could spend the next 4 or 5 hours talking with Courtney Johnston on these issues, because these are lightning rod issues in Davidson County and the surrounding communities. So Freddie and his team, and apparently many voters in Davidson County, got their half-cent sales tax increase for the purpose of quote-unquote transit. Much of that money going to sidewalks, which are already being built. This lighting or this system of signals that apparently is awesome and great, and that's all well and good, and it costs a lot of money. And then bus service, and that's great. I mean, and that's just in time to get more people on the buses so they get shot, apparently. And we've had two shootings in a week. But, I mean, these are regular
and a
occurrences.
stabbing, fatal stabbing.
And a stabbing in a week. Yeah. How in the hell, no amount of money is going to get people on the bus if you don't get the crime under control on our city buses? Am I not right?
Yeah, nobody's going to go anywhere if they don't feel safe, period. And so that has a lot of implications. That statement's a big statement, especially as it relates to Davidson County and our tourism industry, which not only props up Davidson County, but also the state of Tennessee. It's something that we need to protect. But no, people are not going to ride the bus if they don't feel safe. They're not going to sit at a bus stop waiting for the bus if they don't feel safe. And so the answer from the administration is, oh, well, this is an opportunity to have a transit division or a complete and separate transit police. Well, we see how, okay, first of all, we don't have enough police officers to handle what we have now. Adding another division.
Just hire police officers. Why are you creating
Yeah, and if it was that easy, I mean, so that it's such a it's like, really? If we could just hire more police officers, we would
do that.
Right. But also to create a separate force, a transit police. When you look at our parks police, you can see all of the different challenges with that. And I wrote about that in my blog, where they have jurisdiction issues, they have pay issues, which is why we constantly on the parks police have at least 10 open positions, which equates to about 70% of that force. So a separate police department for transit does not make sense to me for Nashville. I'm sure it works in other places like New York, Chicago, all that. It's not. I don't see it working for Nashville, and I don't see that MNPD has the capacity to add another division, especially when you start expanding in such an extreme way our bus system.
So so you get arguments from the extreme left that they don't want to have anything to do with, it feels like anything that's going to support our police department. I mean, I don't mean to say it that crass.
Yeah,
but
and they will tell you, well, I support the police department. Again, what someone says and what they do.
Two different things.
If they're two different things, I'm going to look at what you do. And when you vote against the police department and tools or whatever, to the point that you're going to vote basically against or vote for a deferral to accept a grant for a software system that creates surveys for the police department, for the community, that is unbelievable. So when you vote for that, I don't care what you say, you are against the police department, period.
Do you believe that Freddie O'Connell, as mayor of Nashville, Tennessee, will ever give the thumbs up on license plate readers as mayor?
I think that it will come before the council, because he's receiving pressure. And what I would tell people is continue to apply that pressure. He works for us. He works for the taxpayers and residents of Nashville, Tennessee. And so keep up that pressure. My fear is that the advocacy for it that we got under John Cooper's administration will not be there under the O'Connell administration. That's my
fair.
fear.
Courtney, always a pleasure, a delight having you in. The time just flies by. I'm sorry for those that we will not be able to get to your calls, but we'll do it again. We'll do it again very soon. Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
There's Courtney Johnston. It's 52 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and let's spend a moment talking about your health, especially if you're a guy, right? So if you do not believe that you've got the energy level that you ought to have, if it's decreased precipitously over the last several months or years, well, it's time to do something about it, man. You don't have to just say that this is middle age or getting up in years and be done with it. You can fight back through Tennessee Men's Clinic. And yes, gentlemen, I know that in some ways this has to do with intimacy and your romantic relationships. I'm not trying to get into your business, but I am telling you this, that if you've noticed issues, if you've noticed a lack of intimacy or drive, personally, or if you've noticed it in the backyard doing yard work or at the gym, wherever it might manifest itself, there are solutions for you at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. 2 locations to serve you. One is in Franklin, the other Midtown. Been there since 2014. Evan Bass and his team are great at what they do. Let's schedule an appointment today and see how they can assist you. 615-208-9090, 208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic online, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Hear the emotional testimony in two high-profile cases, one in Georgia involving an illegal immigrant, one from decades ago involving two small boys left strapped in car seats by their murderous mother. Coming up at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver, and we'll get to your calls, Jim and JR and Jerry, if you want to hang. Oh, the 3 J's are on the line. And a lot of people are very angry at me because I don't get as much heartburn as some do about LPRs or about this system of cameras on private businesses. But I'm here for the beating. Don't worry, I'm here for the beating. I'm all good. Plus, we'll talk about transgendered bathrooms in the U.S. Capitol or a lack thereof and the lack of work product from our GOP Senate delegation. It's all on the way on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Temperature drop on the way. Tell you about it during the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, TBI has a silver alert in effect for 67-year-old Patricia Della Vega, missing from Clarksville. Last seen yesterday wearing a white T-shirt, black and gray hoodie, and blue jeans. She has a medical condition that may impair her ability to return safely without assistance. Now, here is a key clue. She may be traveling in a 2017 green Subaru Forester with Tennessee specialty plate Woman Veteran 4779. You see her or the vehicle, you're asked to call Clarksville Police or TBI at 1-800-TBI-FIND. Right now in our nation's capital, some new rules for the 119th Congress. It's about Capitol bathrooms. The House will require a person to use the facilities that correspond with their gender at birth. It started with one House Republican planning a transgender bathroom ban. Congresswoman Nancy Mace announced she will introduce a resolution in January to put a ban in place. But the House Speaker Mike Johnson seems to be one step ahead. Johnson explaining today, as he was followed by a gaggle of fast-walking reporters, this will now be part of the official House regulations.
It's enforceable, but we have single-sex facilities for a reason.
He says this ban is enforceable. How it is going to be enforced is not clear. Illegal immigrant Jose Ibarra has been sentenced to life in prison without parole for the kidnapping and murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley in February. Prosecutors declined to seek the death penalty for Ibarra. Prior to sentencing, Laken's mother, Allison Phillips.
There is no end to the pain, suffering, and loss that we have experienced or will continue to endure. On that horrific day, my precious daughter was attacked, beaten, and shown no mercy.
Weeks after the election, the murder of Laken Riley still reverberates in the political world. Even now, after learning that Ibarra has been convicted, President-elect Trump posting, quote, "It is time to secure our border and remove these criminals and thugs from our country." Meanwhile, in front of a parole board in Columbia, South Carolina.
It was a case that captivated the country 30 years ago. Susan Smith claimed she had been carjacked and blamed a black man, pleading for their safe return of the two boys, but she killed them by rolling her car into a South Carolina lake with them strapped into their car seats. 3 decades later, on Wednesday, she pleaded to a parole board for freedom.
I'm sorry.
Her ex-husband asked the board to keep her locked up. The decision was quick. The parole board unanimously voted against granting Smith parole.
That's Alex Stone and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
If you watch me on Super Talk Television, and thank you for doing so, then you know that I have quite a head of hair, especially nowadays with my locks for Trump. Well, I thank PAI Medical in part for that head of hair. I think genetics and good living, or bad living as the case may be, but I think PAI Medical because I went to these guys and I said, listen, I've got a lumpy, bumpy head, and the last thing that I need is to lose my hair. And they said, well, believe it or not, you might not think this, but you're losing a little on the crown because you start thinning before you notice it. And we can assist with the FDA-approved laser treatments to make your hair thicker and fuller and to prevent any further hair loss. And they have done so with this head of hair. They can do so with you as well. Whether you're just beginning to lose your hair or you've been losing it for a time, We Grow Hair and the PAI Medical folks can help. They're the only clinic in Nashville with all of the proven medical solutions, to include their trademarked multi-unit hair grafting procedure and the ARTIS robotic FUE hair transplant procedure. Results are guaranteed. Call today. Tell them I sent you to We Grow Hair. Go to WeGrowHair.com or call 615-376-6010. 376-6010. It is the Matt Murphy Show, man. Time just flying by. Already 2:07. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Wednesday edition, November 20. Thank you for being here. Episode 698. Whether you're on the radio, 99.7 FM, whether you're on internet streaming, anywhere you stream music or news or information, you can stream this radio station, and we thank you. You can download our app, stream us directly, or you can watch on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. That is Talk TV. Thank you for doing that. All of it presented by our good friends at U.S. Pest. Thank you to J.K., Erica, and the rest of the team at U.S. Pest for everything they do. A lot of you want to talk. I mean, it's interesting when I get it from the big-time liberals and the big-time libertarians simultaneously, and that's where I'm at right now. But I'm here for the struggle. Also here for the struggle is Cameron Smith, who is worn. Hey, Bell, you see what Cameron's wearing right now? Yeah. How would you describe the coloring on that hoodie? That's how I would describe it too. Thank you for supporting the club.
I am. I'm here to support Georgia in their time of struggle against the College Football Playoff Committee.
We are being disrespected.
That is accurate.
That is accurate. We're being disrespected. But that's okay. Just light a fire in that belly.
Yeah.
That's okay. Just all we want is in.
Did you know that Indiana has a football team?
Apparently they do, and apparently they have not lost as of yet.
I've heard that.
But this weekend is a-coming.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I'm in favor of the Buckeyes.
Same.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
It's
weird,
gross.
but it's
so
gross.
gross.
But I just want the also ran. I mean, I hate to be this elitist guy, but I mean, I'm sorry. You cannot convince me that Indiana plays Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Georgia, and Texas. How many of those games do they win?
None.
They win 0 of those games.
Yep.
I fully believe. I mean, maybe they play each of them 10 times each, and there's a one-off every so on. But come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. I need order restored to the universe, and the idea that these upstarts are there. Ugh.
All right, while we're on the subject, and we don't want to – it's true. While we're on the subject, I don't want to belabor it. I had an interesting debate with an old friend, Jim Dunaway, who's a sports guy in Birmingham, and he was trying to calm the fears of Alabama fans, saying, guys, you want to be in the SEC championship because there's a debate about whether you want it or not. Like with 2 losses, you're in the playoffs. If you get a third, And he's like, there's 0 chance that you're going to be punished for a loss in the SEC championship game. That's a bonus. And I'm like, what? And he said, that doesn't happen. I mean, the last time it happened was, 04 or whatever. I was like, it happened last year when Georgia was undefeated and took on Alabama and lost Alabama by 3 points and got left out. Well, this is different. This is different.
Because Indiana and reasons.
Because Indiana and Boise State and reasons.
Hey, watch this. Is a 3-loss SEC runner-up better than Indiana? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Of course they are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are they? Hey, here's a question. Are they better than BYU?
Yes.
Yes.
So does Vandy beat Indiana?
Yes.
We're just come on. I just love that we're just. You know what? If we talk Alabama or Georgia football, we start going after it. But when we just basically talk SEC football, we become elitist
And people,
snobs.
yes,
and I love that.
And people say, you shouldn't taunt. You shouldn't. To quote Monty Python, I shall taunt you a second time.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we will
bring it.
Yeah, let's do this.
We're about you're about to bleep around and find out in that playoff.
Yeah, and I take, and we should be this way in our politics too. We should not be apologetic. We should have our back and forth. Like, I've taken some woodshed whoopings. I'll deliver them too. It's more fun that way. Like we're going to apologize for everything. And we're like, okay, say your piece. Let's disagree. Let's move forward. Yay.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
America.
Yep.
Dang right. All right. We are continuing a conversation, and several people have held over, and I want to be respectful of them. But I want to get your take on it first. It was a conversation about local politics, primarily about the ability for the Metro Nashville Police Department to do their jobs. And these LPRs, they also, Fuchsius, it's not Fuchsius, Fucus, I'm saying it wrong. Courtney's probably screaming in a radio right now, but it's a program where private businesses can choose to link up with government. Look, and I understand it sounds Big Brother and all that, but the private businesses have to agree with this. And that it gives the Metro Nashville Police Department the ability to link into the private businesses' surveillance if there has been a crime in the area to try to investigate and to do something about said crime. On its face, do you have a problem with this?
I've encountered a couple of these in the wild, which is law enforcement software to connect to other cameras in a given jurisdiction. And so it's usually opt-in. I understand the value to law enforcement. I'm not questioning that at all. But when the capacity is there, the capacity for abuse is there, I would want to know that everything is on the up and up and
Sure.
that it's not being utilized for other nefarious purposes.
So, along those same lines, could I not make the same argument about private business surveillance generally? Because right now, a law enforcement agent can go to the private business after the fact and say, hey, we noticed that you have surveillance cameras. Can we look at your footage?
Yeah.
That's legal.
Yes.
Well, but couldn't that be abused?
In terms of law enforcement, if they say, hey, we come to your business, we want to see your footage. If the owner wants to comply, they can comply. If they say no, then they got to go get a warrant. Right?
It's kind of like pre-authorization, right? This program feels like pre-authorization, but they have to notify the business if they ever utilize. You have to trust.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to trust anything the government's doing now.
I would feel much better if it's like, okay, cool. We have the ability to connect in, but we are not connected, right? So I can patch into your security feed, but it's
going to flag you.
Yeah, you got to let me in. Kind of like, Google with your phone if somebody tries to log in.
Sure.
That type of stuff would make me feel good because it's like, okay, we're helping law enforcement do their job. Private business knows when they're tapping into these cameras, and it's their cameras. So, okay, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. What about license plate readers? Where are you on it?
That's really popular in some of the neighborhoods, around it where I live. One neighborhood has it, we don't. Again, you're in a public space insofar as it's not a gated neighborhood. So if the government or the HOA or whoever wants to take a picture of your license plate, they can. And I think there is some utility of knowing who's in your neighborhood and who's not.
I'm surprised at the number, and maybe, I shouldn't be surprised that I attract good, friendly libertarians to this radio show. I consider myself a libertarian with a small L. I know that I don't abide by the rules of libertarianism always because they're always changing. Anyway, so, but
that just proves you're not a real libertarian.
Thank you, Bill. That's a compliment. If I agree that police officers have the ability to sit on a street corner and look at license plates, then I have a hard time, obviously, with checks and balances in place, disagreeing with the technology argument. It would be more earnest and honest if we had a discussion about why we have license plates at all.
Right.
I mean, because people that have a stern disagreement with this technology, I would think just basically you're arguing that you disagree with having to license your vehicle with a plate. Because that automatically gives police officers an opportunity to check said license plate at any point that they want.
I understand the knee-jerk reaction is saying, you know, I didn't do anything wrong. You shouldn't be taking pictures of my stuff. Well, yeah, maybe not at your house or in a private context, but if you're on a public street, that's fine.
All right.
And the question for me, particularly, actually, this is one where I'm actually more okay with those cameras being accessible by law enforcement than, say, like an HOA. Like, there is no positive check on an HOA having access to that stuff. If it's, we want one, law enforcement, you know, you have access to the, okay. Because there's a higher probability of abuse from the HOA than police. Police, when something gets stolen or broken into, they want to review who was in, who was out. You can check it out pretty fast.
And maybe I have a misunderstanding. I hope that I don't. But it's my understanding that these readers, they deal with input, right? So you have to input, we're looking for this plate, and then you go through these cameras. And if the particular plate, they're not like looking at your plate and seeing if there's something that they can find on you. They're looking for specific plates of specific vehicles that are either stolen or involved in criminal activity or whatever. But obviously they have to look at yours to see if yours is the bad guys.
Yeah, and they have various tools to kind of filter through that so they don't have to do it. But like, for example, I left my house this morning. I will come back some point this evening, right? So that's a out-in. Well, if you got a reader that's in and out, you know that if somebody came and committed a crime and left, that, hey, there's a higher probability in that cohort. That's what we'd be looking for is, okay, who came in and out. And
you got some time stamps or whatever.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, I understand it too. Jim is next in Mount Juliet with a thought on this subject. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
Great, Jim.
Just wanted to observe real quick. Courtney hit it right on the head about the LPRs. This is nothing but an enhancement of the ability of a police officer to do what they're already doing. Back in the old days, I would have picked up a mic and called in a tag to see if it was what kind of car it was listed on, and more importantly, for LPR purposes, if it's listed in NCIC or as a vehicle of interest anywhere else. Then it went to mobile data terminals, which I presume that Nashville has. They still got to key it in and get the result. Now you have merely the LPR scanning the plates, and out of 1,000 vehicles that goes by, oops, there's one we want to look at. It's stolen or it's in connection with somebody with a warrant or whatever.
Yep.
So this is nothing but progress is what this is. But the main thing I called about, Matt, was you had a caller a while back that was talking about consent to be recorded. Tennessee is, in fact, a one-party state.
Yes.
If I'm talking to you on the street, I don't need to tell you that I'm recording the conversation.
Yeah, only one of us needs to know.
Right. Not all, like 13 states require all parties to a conversation to know. And a couple of them have some kind of mixed laws. If you're going somewhere and you want to know what the law is, recordinglaw.com is a great site to set that out and let you know what the law is. Surprisingly, California requires notice of everyone. Past that, I haven't looked. But anyway.
And if you're at Trump Tower, the FBI requires that no one knows that you're listening. That's just a joke. The more power we give government, the less freedom we have.
I mean, that sounds cool.
That does sound cool. So do you want government? I mean, so you're telling me if we have no government, then we have ultimate freedom? Well, great. I have the freedom to kill you.
Yeah. Now we're
without
getting
government
into the Hobbesian state of nature. Like,
right,
you know.
Right. I mean, in theory, I understand the philosophical, the more power, and I understand it. And I am a fierce defender of freedoms, but government set up, government is a setup by civilized society in order to establish law and order and consequences of violating said. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and what I've said repeatedly is we need the minimum amount of government that we can have in the context of an ordered society, right? Like, so there's this balancing test, and I get all the knee-jerk stuff about this, the one thing people don't understand is that reasonable expectation of privacy matters. Otherwise, when you're in public and doing stuff,
right, you shouldn't have it.
Right, anybody can record you.
And what bothers me about modern conversation about this is that if you have a discussion about where liberty and security, where that line hits, if I draw my line in a slightly different place than you, that doesn't mean that I'm your enemy.
Right.
That means that I'm putting my line in a slightly different place than you.
Well, this is called adulting, Matt.
Right. So I mean, and so people, and I could read you the text right now. Well, that I'm a liberal or whatever, or I believe in a nanny state of government or whatever. I mean, don't be that person. Understand that adult people can fall in slightly different places about where they think security should be in terms of guaranteeing the rule of law and the rights of other people. You can be in a slightly different place on it, or you can be a damn anarchist and not believe in government at all. I mean, that you're within your right to believe that too.
But this is, I mean, we have fun with the old rhino thing in the back.
Yeah.
Like we kind of play with it, but like the truth is, folks, you want a big tent. Trump won because of a big tent, because there's people in that tent that disagree with you on a wide range of topics. Like I hear some of y'all, I see some of y'all about RFK, man. He's got the big pharma on the run. And at the same time, a lot of y'all are really pro-life, and you're sort of like quiet now because he's very pro-choice. And here's the deal. People are complicated. You can be two things at the same time, and you make a judgment call and say, oh, okay, well, works for me, and then a senator confirms that nominee. That's how that works. That's how it should work in our conversations.
We were having a great conversation yesterday on air about, I posed a hypothetical question about casino gambling in Tennessee, and a lot of people were against it. And I had some great conversation about, where the right of an individual to spend their money freely in a manner of their own choosing, where that ends versus the societal impact of certain activities that might have a negative drain on society. I think it's a great conversation to have, and you can kind of put your line in different places and not be enemies when you talk about these types of things.
Yeah, well, I mean, they definitely want to hear that I support legal private lotteries like our founding fathers. Let's get wild because, we joked about the raccoon. I'm still working on my one-pager. Like, the nanny state is real even in a conservative state like Tennessee. It's just the inertia of building things over time and reaching into things. And we should just periodically ask the question of, hey, why are we doing this? Do we have a good reason? If we don't, we shouldn't do it anymore. And if we do, we should keep doing it.
12:23 in a moment, I'm going to ask our friend Cameron Smith why the GOP Senate cannot do their job. It seems that they don't have the ability to do their job, and we've got liberal judges as a result. It's 23 after the hour on Super Talk. Holiday traditions are incredibly special because they give us a chance to pause, reflect, and connect with what really matters. And this season, Craft Body Scan has a unique idea for a new tradition all about your health and your peace of mind. Right now, they're offering a buy one, gift a one special for couples on their incredible full body scans. This is tip to stern, head to toe, friends. They're going to scan your entire body with their incredible CT scan technology, and that means through December 31st for just over $2,400. You can receive a scan, and you get a full body scan and an additional one for a loved one completely free. A quick, non-invasive scan to make sure that everything in your health is A-OK, dealing with issues like heart disease and cancer long before symptoms appear. This kind of peace of mind is priceless. Taking charge of your health is one of the best things that you can do. Call today, 615-436-1000, 615-436-1000, or go to craftbodyscan.com. Spell that with a C, craftbodyscan.com for more information on these incredible full body scans through Craft Body Scan. Once again, 615-436-1000.
Still no sign of the subject of a TBI silver alert. Details on that and hear more emotional testimony from a Georgia courtroom and a parole board hearing in South Carolina. 2 high-profile cases coming up at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. 28 minutes after the hour. You know, I'm stealing something from Cameron Smith. We were just talking, and, ultimately the Constitution is a big government document, right, because it's a governing philosophy. So I suppose that we could argue that in that way, a belief in the Constitution of the United States is valuing some level of security over freedom, because ultimate freedom would be no governing document, right?
Correct.
It would be the freedom to do as we choose.
Right.
But then what's going to prevent me from violating your rights?
Me shooting you first?
I suppose.
No, you
I'm not
answer
the question
That's
properly.
how it works, is if the goal is I must defend my turf and my home and my family and everything, then, man, I can't build a lot. I can't do a lot if I don't feel safe and secure. So, just imagine that life. That's the Hobbesian state of nature. Good luck.
And obviously, and so the reason that I say that we all have our own line to draw in the sand with regard to these conversations is that, if a police officer came to my house and said, we have a report of a guy breaking into houses around this neighborhood, we think he might be in your basement, we want to come search your house, I'm going to say, no, I'll take care of that. Thank you very much. And you're not going to come in unless you have a warrant. That's not reason enough. So, we all have those lines in the sands. At the same time, if I go out on public roadways that are community-based property, we all live in some level of socialism. If you don't believe me, where's your water coming from? If it's not from a well, you're a part of a socialist system. So, so let's stop with the purity nonsense when it comes to security. No security or any level of security equates to a destruction of our freedoms.
Yeah, and this is the Marlboro Man mythology. Like, that's where conservatives, we do this fantasy thing where it's like, I want to be off the grid. I want to ride my horse and rope stuff.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Great, go.
Sounds great. Knock yourself out. I would argue that, particularly for those of us who are Christians, the Bible right out of the gates is God decided it wasn't good for man to be alone. Like, this idea of the rugged individual, it's good to be personally accountable and responsible. But we should live in community. We should have an engagement. That's what we're doing right now. If it's all just we're rugged individuals, then why are we talking? Why are we engaging in these conversations? Well, it's because we're social. It doesn't mean we're socialist, but man, how we interact matters.
Yeah.
And we have to have government to protect our rights, to do a lot of those things. It doesn't mean government gives us them rights, but it's important.
And I have a great appreciation for the individuals that live more on the edges of these discussions, because I think they protect the middle in some ways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I do. And so I have great respect for those individuals. I don't have respect for people that are calling me a socialist and saying that I'm big government.
I call that like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Oh, no, I have respect for people that call you that.
Right.
Because you are.
Oh, obviously.
Now, me, I'm not. I'm a freedom lover.
I am righteous.
It's 30 after the hour at Super Talk.
.2:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, TBI with an active silver alert for 67-year-old Patricia Della Vega, missing from Clarksville since yesterday. They ask that you keep an eye out for a 2017 green Subaru Forester with Tennessee specialty plate Woman Veteran 4779. If you see her or the vehicle, call Clarksville PD or TBI at 1-800-TBI-FIND. In our nation's capital, when the 119th Congress takes office, there will be some new rules about Capitol bathrooms. The House will require a person to use the facilities that correspond with their gender at birth. It started with one House Republican planning a transgender bathroom ban. Congresswoman Nancy Mace announced she will introduce that resolution in January to put one in place. House Speaker Mike Johnson seeming to be one step ahead of the South Carolina representative. Johnson explaining today, as he was followed by a gaggle of reporters, this will now be part of the official House regulations.
Women deserve women's only spaces, and we're not anti anyone. We're We're pro-woman.
The specific language request follows the election of Sarah McBride, the Democratic lawmaker from Delaware, who is the first transgender person elected to Congress. And an emotional day in a Georgia courtroom as the family of Laken Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student killed while on a run at the University of Georgia's campus, calling for the judge to lock up her killer, an illegal immigrant, for the rest of his life. Allison Phillips, Laken's mother.
There is no end to the pain, suffering, and loss that we have experienced or will continue to endure.
The judge sentencing Jose Ibarra to life in prison without parole. I know what I did was horrible. An emotional Susan Smith today asking a parole board in Columbia, South Carolina for freedom after serving 30 years in prison for drowning her 2 young sons. But she was denied that parole. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
So Thanksgiving is here, and Holly and David at Savory Spice want you to know that you don't have to worry about it because they've got you covered. Don't you worry, friends. Holly just sent me a note recently talking about the incredible items that they have at Savory Spice for the Thanksgiving holiday, everything for your holiday meals. They have turkey brining kits. They have turkey spices, anything you need. I mean, obviously, they got pumpkin pie spice, everything you need from pumpkin pie. They got, things that you need for the green bean casserole and the dressing and the fixings. Everything that you are going to prepare on your Thanksgiving table is going to have some form of spices or seasoning inside of it. And you should be getting those spices and those seasonings from Savory Spice. Friends, it's as simple as this. You're going out to shop for the holidays. Do not buy your spices from some knockoff store. Don't buy your spices from some place that's had them there since last year. Buy the freshest of the fresh and the best of the best from Savory Spice for your family this holiday season. I mean, you're going to be fighting about politics anyway. The last thing you want to be fighting about is how good the pumpkin pie is. So go to Savory Spice to avoid that. Savory Spice located in Franklin, just off the square, and L&L Market on Charlotte Pike in Nashville. The one and only Savory Spice. Hey, friends, my name is Matt Murphy, and I am proud to be a part of Men of Valor, and I want you to be a part as well. Let's talk about it. Men of Valor, they understand a couple of facts, and I want to throw some statistics at you. 90% of men that get into prison get out of prison. 90%. And of those, 50% will return within 3 years unless they are discipled and given hope and a future. And that's what they do at Men of Valor. Did you know that the graduates of the Men of Valor program, less than 10% of those graduates return to prison at any point? That's because of the power of God and the power of the message. Men of Valor needs volunteers just like you in their prisons and at their campus for aftercare reentry. They need job partners and Bible study teachers and mentors that can disciple men on a day-to-day basis. Will you join us in helping set captives free and making our community a safer place to live and saving money in the process? Go to movministry.com. That's movministry.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Men of Valor. Busy show, busy Wednesday. Thank you for being here. Thanks to Courtney Johnston for spending some time with us last hour, talking to LPRs, also talking about other matters involving Davidson County and the Metro Nashville area. We have Cameron Smith in with us. He writes for the Tennessean. He appears on Super Talk 99.7 WTN often. You might hear him from time to time over the holidays. That's my understanding.
It's like Santa.
You kind of got a Santa thing going on right
the beard,
now.
the red.
You're like young Santa.
Young Santa.
You know, before you bulked up. You're a little, you're like Santa in the off season where he's not, got the milk and the cookies going.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just Santa before he got tired. You know what I mean?
Before he just said the heck with it.
Yeah, forget this. Give me them cookies.
Let the elves do it, whatever. Yeah. You and I were talking off air. Let's translate it on air. I mean, are we jumping too quickly into these debates about these cabinet selections? I mean, because none of these are going to be officially or formally discussed or debated until January, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I understand that we all have reactions. I understand that we all have opinions about RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard or, whatever. And certainly, I mean, a lot of fires being pointed toward Matt Gaetz. What's the role of the Senate here?
Advice and consent. I know that's, let's talk about what that means, though.
Right.
It is... You're looking at these nominees. You do not get to pick them. You've correctly stated that. The president puts them forward, and you're giving the president your advice and consent if you say, hey, this is one that I think is consistent with what's needed in the best interest of our country.
Mm-hmm. Do you think past should be prologue when it comes to how political parties react to one of their own being the guy that picks? I think it's been since Calvin Coolidge. And I want to express this first because you might jump on it. Mostly when there are disagreements within a political party, the nomination is pulled prior to a vote.
Sure.
And that's happened. The last time there was an actual vote where the political party in the White House was the same as the majority party in the Senate that did not get confirmed was 1920-something and Calvin Coolidge.
Sure.
So it is relatively rare that this would happen. No one is suggesting that it will necessarily happen, but there seems to be a lot of consternation about a couple of the picks.
Okay. I mean, there should be. Because if what America looked at and said, we didn't like the inertia that had happened with Joe Biden, this big government sort of lurching forward with no real reforms, and Harris was basically the candidate of continuing that. So there should be controversy. They should be nominees which will take us in a different direction than we currently are. I think it's very important for senators to be independent, but to justify why they do what they do. You should not go out there and just slam a nominee. I think Trump is very smart to go ahead because he's not an idiot. He knows that some of these nominations are really going to be controversial. He's kind of feeling it out right now. The Senate Republicans, use Matt Gaetz, have already had an opportunity to kind of think about it, sit back, say, I don't know, here's what I need to know. Now they can give that advice to the president and say, hey, look, here's what we need to see. We've got 6 senators that are saying no way, because some of them have known him personally and he's trashed them and it's personal for them. And they may, for whatever reason, they got to vote.
Is that legit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do because
You think it's legit to use a personal dislike of someone as a disqualifier?
Well, saying legit, what I mean by that is a senator has a vote. They were elected.
I mean, they can vote any way they want to.
They were elected to do that. Now you got to defend that. You can't say he's a jerk and I freaking hate him. So I'm not.
I mean, you can, but,
but that's my point. You can, but you're going to pay an electoral premium. You're going to get primaried or something like that.
Right.
If you're sitting there and saying, okay, there's a lot of smoke here, and we got to do this FBI background check. That's standard operating procedure. Let's see how that comes back and what information we have. And then let's have that hearing and have that discussion. And I can tell you what's going to happen is Trump's going to get that information from the Senate. He's going to see how it's going. And he's either going to decide, hey, we're going to make senators walk that plank, or, okay, cool, this is fun right now, and it creates cover. And now I got all these other nominees good, and I look reasonable. Okay.
I've used the antelope example for Matt Gaetz that, if the pride of lions, if they're going to catch anybody, they're going to catch the slowest antelope and the rest of the antelopes get away. I thought of another one last night that it's almost like a lost leader where, you're losing capital on one particular item in the store, but you're getting them in for the rest. Is Matt Gaetz, is it possible that they're thinking that he's a lost leader, or could he be a lost leader if it's clear that he doesn't have the votes? You just keep him out there.
Yeah.
And then you get some of your other nominees through, knowing that you're not going to get Gaetz and eventually pull him.
Yeah. I mean, that's just strategy, and it's
That's
effective.
a political.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what's a little weird, I don't know if it's concerning or what, the fact that he resigned immediately. Like,
he wanted the ethics probe over.
I know that. I got that part. But if that
It's
to
a
me,
little weird.
That to me is like, man, is what was going to come out so bad that you're like, yo, I got to go.
But the odd thing is, if Biden's DOJ had anything, wouldn't have they just destroyed him?
Well,
I mean, that's what I feel like.
But we've seen in a situation where things can be like, in terms of character and fitness, oh man, we may not prosecute you, but you are not in a good place. And
I call it the hookers and blow effect.
Yes.
Right?
Where it's like the full force of the federal government is not going to prosecute you. However, whoa, dude.
Bad luck.
Right. And you're not the kind of person we want in charge of, I don't know, all law enforcement in the federal level.
I don't know. Kind of a chaos guy, so.
Sure. And you and I differ a little bit on that. But my point is, if you want chaos, and I would make this argument. You want chaos at the DOJ, put Chip Roy there. Chip Roy is an attorney. He is a rock rib conservative, and he does not pull any punches, and he's as MAGA as you got out there, right? I also know Chip personally and know he's a man of extremely high character. So I'm fine with that. I'm not suggesting we need to take a long, soft look at DOJ. It's just that, okay, how about Ted Cruz? How about Jim Jordan? How about, like I said, Chip Roy? I can give you super MAGA people that don't have the baggage, and that's why Gaetz feels kind of like a trial balloon.
At some point, you can't pick any more from the House, right?
Yeah, well, if you got Republican governors, you can. You just got to be careful where you pick.
Are you frustrated like I am? I went after these GOP senators for not doing their job yesterday and the day before.
Even if you know the vote outcome, again,
I don't care.
It's a bad look. You need to show up and vote.
You're at SpaceX watching along. I mean, I'm talking Bill Haggerty.
Yeah, I saw him on Fox. I said, oh, look, there's Bill.
Yeah, doing his thing with the SpaceX and the launch, and not doing his thing actually voting against some of these ridiculously liberal nominees that are going through.
Yeah, and unfortunately that sends the signal to me of, well, I'm interested in moving to the administration as opposed to this elected position.
Well, and I don't know if you saw Vance's comment on it. He backtracked quickly. He initially posted on social media, like Vance wasn't there. And when asked about it, he said, listen, I'm doing important stuff. I don't have time for all of this. He said he was meeting with Trump as a part of interviews for potential candidates to become FBI director. Quote, I tend to think it's more important to get an FBI director who will dismantle the deep state than it is for Republicans to lose a vote 49-46 rather than 49-45. However, if he, Ted Cruz, Bill Haggerty, and there was one other, had been there, they wouldn't have lost that vote. And Kamala Harris was in Hawaii. So I think somebody did the math for him, and he pulled the post down eventually, and now says, if we're going to be effective, we have to show up, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's just a bad look.
Yeah, well, it's the I've got more important things. I get the euphoria of the moment. You're like, we're going to do this. We're going to do.
I'm sure we're all excited.
But you got a job to do. Do your freaking job. And it's not. I want to be real clear. It's not a hard job. I've been around this for a very long time. It is taxing because everybody wants a piece of your time. But the job itself is show up, make a judgment call.
And you know better than me, but I know better than most how they're treated.
Yes.
And the amount of people that they have surrounding them to make sure that they don't have time bandits in their orbit.
Yep.
They're treated like kings. It's the greatest job in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a good gig if you can get it. But that's the reason I don't have time to mess around with people with low character, people who don't show up. People, I mean, these are the things for me that are like, if you can't show me that, you didn't have a hard gig. It's not that hard. Don't be corrupt. Like, these basic things are show up, make judgment calls. That's what people are effectively voting for. And if you can't be bothered to talk to me, communicate, help me understand why you're useful, then you should be voted out of office.
Is Haggerty still in the running for Treasury?
I don't know. I mean, obviously the fact that he's there, he's saying, I think I still have a reason to be here.
I mean, I would love it, obviously, not just because it is a compliment to our Tennessee senator, but also it creates a cascade effect.
It does.
You know,
and
a shakeup of Tennessee political dynamic.
Also, as Treasury Secretary, maybe he can get us those little bags of shredded money from the Treasury.
Oh, yeah, or a sheet.
Yeah.
One of those fancy
Very
sheets
cool.
sheets of money.
Yeah.
I had one other question for you, and I've forgotten what. I remember. Is the ridiculous conversation about transgender bathrooms in the U.S. Capitol? I feel like that's a net positive for the GOP and sensible-minded people.
Yeah.
Because the liberals look like insane to me.
Yeah, well, it's more of the same for them.
Right.
They're proving they didn't learn anything. Nancy Mace is a show pony on many fronts, but here she's like, all right.
Well, and when she's talking to an ABC reporter and she's explaining her position and she says, I was raped, and the ABC reporter just blows right by that. Yeah, that's
tactically brilliant. And on this type of stuff, when the left is like, the things that you know are true are not true. Okay, cool. Keep it up, guys. Let's go. But I want to know who's going to be the pecker checker at the Capitol. You got to enforce the law somehow, right?
Do you get a ball cap and a whistle?
Throw the flag as people walk in. Ma'am, you may, I don't know. You're either a really ugly woman or a man. I've thrown the flag. We have to investigate further. I mean, I'm kidding, but how exactly?
I don't want any part of this anymore.
But how exactly are you going to do it, right? You have the rule. We have a rule. Okay, cool. Rules you must enforce.
Here's the thing. If I see a I can't say that. If I see
a schlapp, Matt Schlapp, yes,
inside the thing, I'm going to call you on it. You just made Bell dump me.
I did.
How dare you?
Yeah.
I'm done with this.
This is excellent.
This is ridiculous. Pecker checker, really?
It's catchy.
Marjorie Taylor. Thank you, Bell.
Throw the flag.
When Bell's the one that's telling us we can't say things, we're in a bad way. We're in a bad territory. That's true. Next thing, you're going to be Marjorie Taylor Greening us over here. Did you hear that comment? That's bad, too. And Ken, don't encourage cameras.
Is this the one where she's like, we got to get it all out there?
She said, she said chicks with
parts.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know that Brian Wilson wants any part of this because I don't, but we'll find out together next on Super Talk. Winding down our portion of the broadcast day, not a moment too soon, Brian Wilson steps in to the arena and up to the microphone to preview what's going on the drive this afternoon. Hello, Mr. Wilson.
Hey, how's it going? You guys doing all right?
Well, we're doing okay till we slipped into bathroom talk at the United States Capitol, and then things get a little crazy, Brian Wilson.
Well, we're going to do a little bit of that, too, on our show. We just got a readout coming up at the top of my show. I'll get right to it. From Marsha Blackburn after she met with Matt Gaetz today.
Okay. Oh,
and
okay.
It sounds like she's in on Gaetz. And then the real question about recess appointments, when might they be used and when might they not be used? That's going to be a very interesting thing to watch. I'll get into all of that. What is a recess appointment? And then tell you, where I think they might come in handy. I got to tell you, I wish I had a nickel for every confirmation hearing I ever covered up on Capitol Hill, because I would have, a lot of nickels. But, I mean, my sense of it is that, I think maybe, I'm just going to throw this out there, I think they might all get through.
So
I had some concerns about Gaetz, but but as I dig more into that, it seems to me that maybe he might get through.
So if I asked you what the most contentious one was that you've covered, does any one particular one come to mind?
Well, I mean, you've had some Supreme Court battles.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas was a real treat. Golly, I thought that thing was never going to end. And by the way, you know who was chairman of the Judiciary Committee when that was all going on?
Joseph
Biden. That's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've covered a bunch of them, and you get a good sense of which ones are going to sort of the skids are greased and which ones are going to be more difficult. But I think there's a possibility that he gets everybody.
All of them through. Well, there's Brian Wilson. He's coming up with a drive full of analysis and breakdown of D.C. politics and beyond. That's right after Ken Weaver's newscast, and Ken Weaver's newscast comes right now. Thanks to Courtney Johnston. Thanks to Cameron Smith. We'll be back tomorrow at high noon. Until then, friends, enjoy the drive. Have a wonderful afternoon. Hug your loved ones. So long, everybody.